when fear of the unknown becomes a pyre for the mind. In the spring of 1484, two German monks, Heinrich Primer and Jacob Sprenger, stood in the office of Pope Innocent VIII, holding a heavy manuscript. That manuscript, which received papal approval, was not an ordinary theological treatise, but an official license to ignite the flames of one of the harshest chapters of repression in human history. Its name was Malleus Maleficarum, or the Witch's Hammer, the book that transformed suspicion and superstition into bloody law and ignorance into a weapon of extermination. For nearly 2.5 centuries, this hammer became the practical and canonical guide for hunting, trying, torturing, and executing alleged witches across Christian Europe. The estimated death toll from this collective hysteria numbers in the tens of thousands, mostly women. However, the impact of the witch's hammer was not merely a death count. It was a systematic assault on the human mind, the establishment of a culture of fear and denunciation, and the dawn of a dark age where difference, vulnerability, and doubt became capital offenses punishable by burning. 1. The book, How Theologians Fabricated Evidence from Thin Air. The Malleus Maleficarum was not merely a superstitious pamphlet. It was a closed, self-justifying legal theological system designed to legitimize persecution and preclude any debate. Its authors did not invent the idea of witchcraft, but they codified it into an inescapable, comprehensive framework built on 3 pillars. First, the theological definition of the criminal. The book defined the witch as a person, overwhelmingly a woman, who had entered into a voluntary pact with the devil. This definition transformed witchcraft from a vague accusation, like harming a neighbor, into a major religious crime, heresy, and high treason against God. Consequently, jurisdiction shifted from local civil courts to the more brutal and fanatical courts of the Inquisition. Second, detailing and expanding the crime. The book left nothing to chance. It exhaustively detailed every alleged activity of witches, from destroying crops and causing infertility to summoning storms, night flying, and engaging in sexual acts with demons, the incubi and succubi. Crucially, it made the accusation itself sufficient grounds to launch an investigation, with no need for physical evidence. Any rumor, neighborly dispute, or woman deemed eccentric or reclusive could become a suspect. Third, legal procedures designed solely for conviction. This was the black heart of the book. It provided rules of evidence and investigative methods crafted to extract confessions at any cost, creating a vicious cycle. 1. Arrest based on suspicion alone. 2. The search for the devil's mark, an area of skin allegedly insensitive to pain when pricked with a needle, an unscientific procedure reliant on the investigator's trickery. 3. Systematic torture. The book meticulously detailed methods of torturing women to extract confessions, from branding with hot irons to the Spanish boot that crushed limbs. A confession obtained under torture was considered the queen of proofs. 4. Expanding the confession. Once a confession was obtained, the victim, under continued torture, was forced to name new accomplices, neighbors, friends, relatives, thereby infinitely expanding the circle of suspicion and fueling mass hysteria throughout the community. 2. Societies and victims. Why were women the primary target? The Malleus Maleficarium was explicit in its misogyny. One of its chapters famously opens, "All witchcraft comes from carnal lust, which is in women insatiable." The theological theory it presented portrayed women as weaker in faith and reason than men, thus easier prey for the devil's seduction, driven by insatiable lust, leading them to engage in sex with demons, naturally malicious, using demonic powers to take revenge on society. The hammer never really fell.
The Malleus Maleficarium is not just a relic of a bygone age, it is an embodiment of how fear, ignorance, and ideology can coalesce into a killing machine. It reminds us that the greatest evil does not always arrive as a barbarian invader. It can come cloaked in the vestments of religious sanctity or legal legitimacy, wielded by judges and inquisitors convinced they are executing divine will.